In this tutorial we are going to create this part in Ironcad. Perhaps you have seen this part being created in another CAD software, so this time we are going to see how we can create it in Ironcad. So I will start with this part of the item. I come over here to drag an extrude shape, drop it here. And we see that the width is 60 and the height is 60 and the length to the center is 115, so I will change the width to 60 and the height to 60 and the length here to 115. And then I need to cut here on this side, and on the other side we see it here. So I will use a cut extrude, drop it here. Then I grab this handle and use the shift key to snap to this side, and I do the same here. Use the shift key to snap, and the same on this side. And the width of the cut should be 20. So I select this handle, type 20, and the depth will be 25 plus 15. So I click on this handle, 25 plus 15, hit enter. Then I need another one on the other side, so I turn on the tribal, and I move the tribal by pressing the spacebar to unlock it first. Then I can right click the center handle, midpoint of edge and this edge. Lock the tribal by pressing the spacebar again. Right click on the orientation handle, mirror and link. So now we have made a cut on the other side. Then I need to add a slot, or cut a slot here. So I use cut slot from the catalog and drag it and drop it here on the midpoint. Make it go through the part. Use the shift key to snap to the bottom. And the length of the slot is 26. So I click on this handle, type 26 and hit enter. And the width is the difference between 16 and 26, and that's 10. So I type 10 here and hit enter. Then it should be positioned 5 millimeters from this edge. So I turn on the tribal, and the tribal is positioned in the center, so that means that the distance between the center and this edge is 5. So if I now right click here, edit distance from point, this side, it should be 10, and it is 10 millimeters. Then I will position the slot 22 millimeters from this edge. So I have to move the tribal, unlock it, right click to center point of this arc, lock the tribal. Now I can right click this handle and choose edit distance from point, this side, and that will be 22 millimeters. So now I had to copy this slot to the other side, so I will use the tribal to do that. Deselect all axes and unlock the tribal, right click on the center handle and move it to midpoint edge, this edge, lock the tribal, right click the orientation handle, mirror and link. So now we have the slot on the other side as well. Then we have to round this edge and these two. So that one is 25 and these two 8. So I come up here to select blend edges, select this edge, and here in properties I type 25, hit enter. Then I select that one and change the radius to 8, hit enter. So now I can select the other one and hit enter again to confirm the command. So now this part is now finished, so I need 2 more. So I select it, turn on the tribal, then I move the tribal to the center here, and that will be the center of this hole. Unlock the tribal, right click, midpoint edge, this edge, that's the center. Then I lock the tribal, select this axis, then I right drag inside in this direction and copy 90 degrees and make sure that reset tribal is not checked. Click OK. And the reason why I don't want the the reset tribal to be checked is, if it's not checked, the tribal will be positioned here where I placed it from the beginning, and this part will also be selected. So now I can right drag inside the tribal again, but this direction, right drag and drop it there, copy 90 degrees and click OK. Then I remove the tribal. So now we have 3 of these, but we need only, but it should be one part, but there are 3 parts. So when that one is selected, I press Shift and Shift select the other 2. Then I come up to Feature up here and select Boolean. So now use Union and click OK. So now there is only one part. Then we will add this cylinder. So I grab a cylinder and I drop it here on the center point or the midpoint, and then I grab this lower height handle, the blue handle, use the Shift key to snap to the bottom here. Then I use the upper height handle, use the Shift key to snap to the top. And we don't know the diameter here because there is no dimension for it. So we have to figure it out. But I will move this cylinder to the center, this center. So I turn on the tribal, right click this axis and choose midpoint edge and that edge. So now it is positioned in the center. And then I remove the tribal. But before we decide what the diameter is, we will add this cylinder. So I left drag the cylinder and drop it here so that it will be a part of that one. And then I grab the lower height handle to drag down a bit. Then I grab the upper handle, use the Shift key to snap, change the diameter here to 63 because we have 63 here. Hit enter. Then I use the tribal and drag this cylinder out a bit. So now we have to decide how far is this cylinder from the center of that cylinder. Well, we will use our calculator. I'll drag it here. We see that this distance is 235 to the center here. So I will remove that one. 235. And the distance from that edge to this center is 115 minus 115 equals 120. So we have to add 120 here to get it in the right position. And then I remove the tribal and change the thickness. The thickness is 20 millimeters. We have it up here. Select that handle, 20, and hit enter. If you see that the parts are a little bit edgy, we can select the part and right click and go to Part Properties and Rendering and increase Surface Smoothness up to 60 or even more if you want to, but 60 is okay, like so. So now we have to figure out what is the diameter of this cylinder. Well, we know that the distance between this center and that center is 120 millimeters. And we have also this dimension that the distance from this side of the cylinder to this side of that cylinder is 101.5. So we'll do like this. I will remove that, 101.5. And then we need to remove the radius from the diameter of 63, and that's minus 31.5 equals 70. So we have 120 and we have to remove 70. That means if I now click minus 120 equals minus 50. So the radius of this cylinder is 50. That means the diameter is 100 millimeters. So type 100, 100 and hit enter, like so. And then we need to connect these two, so I select that one, go to right click and go to edit cross section, and so now we are going to connect these two. First I will go to up to project, and we're going to project this side or this part of the cylinder so that we get an arc. Then I press escape to exit the project command, and we extend this arc a bit, like grabbing the handles, like so. Now we can come up here to select 2-point line, and I will drag a 2-point line here, and on this side press escape to exit the drawing command, grab this endpoint and move it to the arc. We see that now this tangent constraint is visible. Now I can right click and lock it. Do the same here. Right click the constraint and lock it. Then I come up here to constraints, use tangent, select the line and then the circle. Do the same on this side, like so. And then I can use trim to trim these lines and this circle, and that one, and this one, that one, that one, and also this part. Then I use a 2-point line to connect these two endpoints. Then I click OK. So now they are connected. Next step is to add this cone. So I will drag a cylinder, drop it here in the center, and it should be the same, the diameter should be the same as the radius of that one. So I snap it to this edge, and the height should be 43, we see here. So I type 43 and hit enter. And then we will also make a cone of that cylinder. So we go to IntelliShape level and then right click and go to edit feature options, and here we have draft inward. So we change the degrees, and I've done this before, so I will try with 15. We see that this will be this is the preview. So type 15 and click OK, and it will look like this, and I think it will be alright. Then we will cut this hole, and to do that we're going to use, I go back to Home tab up here, we're going to use Spin Wizard. Click Spin Wizard, click here in the center, and we're going to remove material, click Next, 360 degrees along the selected surface, and then I click Finish, and we get this grid where we can draw the cross section. So then I come up here to project, select this edge here, and then this one. Then I press escape to exit the command. Then I come down here, drag the endpoint to the y-axis, and then I click on this side and make sure that this arrow is pointing in this direction. Now I can double click this value, and we see that the diameter here is 45. That means 45 divided by 2 to get the radius. Then I come up here, select this line, grab this endpoint to the y-axis, make sure that the arrow is pointing in this direction, and here we have 25, double click the value, 25 divided by 2, and hit enter. Then I come up here to select 2-point line, click on this endpoint and this endpoint to connect them, and we don't have to add a line here in the center, because when we click Finish, Ironcad will add that line for us, like so. So now we have added that hole, or cut that hole. Next is to add this support, or this rib, and here in Feature we have a rib command, but before we can use it we have to draw a guide curve or a guideline. So we are going to use a sketch. So I click this button here, then I select this midpoint so that we get the this plane in the center. And here, then I click OK to add it. Then I turn on the tribal. We see that the rib should start 50.5 millimeters from the center. So now I can right click this handle because the tribal is positioned in the center of this grid. And here I choose edit the distance from center point of this one. Sorry, we have to do like this. I drag it in this direction. Now I can right click here, and then I use edit distance from center point of this center point and not that one. That should be 50.5. Click OK, and then I turn off the tribal. So now it is in the right position. And then we have to rotate this plane, so we need the tribal again, of course. I select, move the camera so that I can see this orientation handle. I right click this orientation handle and choose to point, and it should be pointing to this node here. So I click the node on the node. So now we have the right angle of this plane. So now I can remove the tribal. Then I have to draw the guide curve from the center here up to this node. So I grab a 2-point line, click here in the center, and then I click here where this node is highlighted in green. So now we have the guide curve. Then I click finish, like so. So now we can come over to feature and select the rib command. Select the part, and we see that Ironcad finds the 2D profile, but we have to change the direction. Now it's pointing upward. So if we click the reverse direction, we see the preview of the rib, and change the thickness to 10. We have 10 here. Hit enter, and then we can click OK. So now we have the support or the rib. Now we can select the 2D profile here, right click and suppress it. Next step is to cut this curved slot, and we're going to use, there is a curved slot to use in ICM add-on if you have that installed, and mech components you have a slot hole here. But I will show you how you can create that curved slot without that add-on. So I will use a cut cylinder, drop it here in the center, and then the depth of that slot should be 8 millimeters. So I will grab the lower height handle, drop it there and type 8. Then I'll right click here inside, go to edit cross section, and the diameter or the radius of that circle should be 43. The radius should be 43. I select the circle. Here we have the radius value. I type 43 and hit enter. And the width of that curved slot should be 22. So when it is selected, I come over here to offset, and the distance here it says 10. I will change that to 22. We don't need any offset constraint, but we have to flip the direction so that it will be on the inside. Then I click OK here. Then I need to add 2 arcs. So I come up here and select 2 endpoints, like so. Then I click here and here. Then I come down here to do the same. First point, the second point. So now I can come up here to select trim and trim this circle and that one. So now if I click OK, we have that curved slot. Next step is to make this cut with a thin, very thin wall here, 1.5 millimeters. We use a cut cylinder to do that. Drag a cut cylinder, drop it here, and the depth of that cut should be around perhaps 15, 16, we see here. There is no dimension set for that, but I will change that to 16, hit enter. Then I right click inside this cut cylinder, go to edit cross section, The circle, it's now set to radius 20. We see here that the radius is 32, so I type 32 and hit enter. Then we are going to project these arcs so that we can make the thin wall. And before we project, we make sure that nothing is selected. Then we can select the project command and select these arcs like so. And then I press escape. So now I deselect everything again. So now we have to make a copy of these arcs. So we'll come up to offset, and here the distance should be 1.5 because that's what we have here, 1.5. Then I'll select that circle or that arc and make sure that we have the copy on this side. If you have the copy on the other side, you have to flip direction. Then I select that one and this one. Then I click OK here. So now we have a copy, and we see now that these arcs are now selected. We can press delete to delete them. Now we can trim the circle and the arcs like so, and this one as well. Now we come in here, select finish. So now we have made that cut. And then there is a hole that goes through from the bottom of this cut to the bottom of the part. So I will grab a cut cylinder, drop it here in the center. And the diameter, well, I'm not sure because there is no dimension here, but I think I will change that to perhaps 18 or something like that. And make sure that it goes through the part. We'll snap it to the bottom. And then we will also cut this hole that has a diameter of 15. Cut cylinder, drop it on this node and type 15, and the depth should go to the bottom of this cut. Then we will add threaded holes, and there are a couple of ways to do that. If we click more catalogs, you have tools, and here you have custom holes. You can add holes, threaded holes. But if you have ICM add-on, that means Ironcad mechanical add-on, and go to mech components, you can use these holes, this hole tool. Or you can also come here to ICM mech, and here you have holes. And I will use this one. And I will drag it and drop it here at the bottom on the center point. And in this menu I can choose a threaded hole. It should be M12 because we have M12 here, and the depth is 25. M12, length 25. Then I click OK. So now I can copy this hole. So I unlock the triball, right click the center handle to center point of this hole, lock the triball again, and then right drag inside in this direction and link the holes. I need two, but 90 degrees, and then I click OK, and then remove the triball. So now I have the holes here, like so. So that's how you can create this part in Ironcad.